All right, welcome back to the channel. So it's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter and the pay-per-view numbers that are being rumored to have been made by Keith Thurman, which exceed those of Terence Crawford, and what that means for the two of them potentially fighting. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Before I get into the video though, make sure that if you're not subscribed to the channel, accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so this video, we're gonna talk about the potential Keith Thurman and Terence Crawford fight and a problem that may actually come up when it comes to making that fight. Because according to rumors, and I'm going to just call those rumors because that is exactly what they are when people are talking about what pay-per-view numbers do and what pay-per-views do not do. Keith Thurman has exceeded 150,000 pay-per-view buys for the fight with Mario Barrios. I saw a couple people who are usually in boxingscene.com. You can always go to boxingscene.com and go into the comment sections down there. There's some people out there that put out some pretty reliable numbers, ones that wind up being consistent with what, some of the other media ultimately released for numbers, that said that the numbers are going somewhere towards 175,000 pay-per-view buys for Keith Thurman and Mario Barrios. All right, now, are those exciting and gigantic numbers if true? No, they are not. Right? They are probably what was expected to be done. I heard going in that the expectation for that fight was for it to do somewhere around 150,000 pay-per-view buys. The funny part comes into play is this. That is more than many people estimated took place for ERROL Spence Jr. versus Shawn Porter. So, when Terence Crawford and Keith Thurman fight one another, the question's going to be, first of all, when they're talking about like Terence Crawford and ERROL Spence Jr. fight. Let's look at it from that point of view. From the Terence Crawford ERROL Spence Jr. fight, that says that the fight with Keith Thurman may be just as big as the fight with Terence Crawford. ERROL Spence and Keith Thurman may be as big or bigger than Terence Crawford and ERROL Spence Jr. when you look at their paying fan base. Now, I'm not saying that I personally think that it's a bigger fight, because I know that it's not a bigger fight. In my heart of hearts, I know that it is not a bigger fight, the Keith Thurman fight versus the Terence Crawford fight. But at the same time, when you're looking at the numbers, and these guys will actually have the real numbers to look at, because there are PBC fighters, both Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman are PBC fighters that are advised by Al Heyman, so they will know the numbers. But when you look at the people that are actually willing to buy the fight, it looks like it could be a what and what type of scenario from a monetary sense. It's not going to be a what and what conversation, what and what situation from a boxing standpoint. Clearly, the best fight is ERROL Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, but man, it's like, wow, how could you even come close? That it just goes to what Terence Crawford sued Bob Arum for. And the fact that Bob Arum and those guys obviously do not know how to build a guy with that level of talent. Because that for Terence Crawford to be an undisputed champion at 147, undefeated fighter, a former undisputed champion at 140, be undefeated in all knockouts over the last 4 years at 147 pounds. For him to put a pay-per-view on against another former world champion, Shawn Porter, and do less than, equal to, or less than Keith Thurman against Mario Barrios coming off of a 2-year layoff, that just tells you, man, that is not a very active fan base, that Terence Crawford does not have a financially active fan base. And it is just, and if it's true, and I certainly hope that it's not, and I will tell you, a lot of these numbers that come out with, guys will lowball numbers. And typically, though, when they're really, really low-balling numbers, they'll say things like, oh, it did 50,000, it did 25,000, right? It did 90,000. So I'm just saying that, you know, I don't know for sure if those are the numbers. I certainly hope that they're not. But if they're anywhere close to one another, then, you know, it's going to cause a problem as far as our hopes for getting that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford fight. As far as Terence Crawford and Keith Thurman having a fight with one another, it also was going to say that Keith Thurman is not going to take, he's not going to take the short money against Terence Crawford. Right? Because he's like, look, man, I sell just like you sell, and I sold off of a 2-year layoff. If I take a couple more fights on pay-per-views, I'll make the same. I can make, you know, my numbers may go up. I don't know. But regardless, man, it's just, man, well, first of all, it's a bad look on all this stuff being pay-per-view, period. Right? A lot of these fights are not pay-per-view worthy, and that's why these numbers are low. Right? So we can put it on the fighter, but at the same time, I do think we need to put it on the actual matchups themselves. If it was, you know, because you're having people basically having pay-per-views every other week, you know, 3 times a month, pretty much to put the burden of of paying for the fights all on top of the fans. And a lot of fans aren't, you know, into it, man. Do not have, you know, the disposable money, you know, to do that every week. Now, if this was like, you know, a special occasion like you have, like it used to be, where you may have, you know, 2 pay-per-views, 3 pay-per-views a year, really like 2 pay-per-views a year, it would be like a major event. And, you know, you could have a house party for it and get together, people could pool, and more people would have money to put money in on those pay-per-views. You know, Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios is not a fight party type of fight, honestly. And really, there's a lot of boxing fans that may just miss that fight even if it was on free TV, you know? So it just all around, man, it smells bad news to me. You know, in boxing, the fact that, you know, these guys' numbers are going to be publicized as being so low. And, you know, at that same time, man, for any fighter any boxer to really want to watch him, they got to pay all of that money. That is, however, you know, separating, you know, if you separate the business of it and saying, you know, because I'm a hardcore boxing fan, I'm going to buy the pay-per-views, right? Was it a good fight between Mario Barrios and Keith Thurman? Absolutely it was. It was a really entertaining fight. The card was solid. You know, I'm not that big a fan of Leo Santa Cruz, but it was a solid, very solid card, and it was definitely worth spending my time watching. Same thing with the Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter thing, man. But I'm also a realist at the same time, man. And these guys, are not going to be risking their top level fighters against a guy like Terence Crawford, who is so good in the ring, if they do not think that it's really going to make a lot of money. And nobody out there is going to be taking, a lot of losses on that stuff. So, there's going to be, and if the people really want to make the the fights for the fans and make these fights bigger fights, I think they're going to have to take some of the pressures off the boxing fans and find a way to put some of these things on free TV to build up these guys' names again, man, because it just doesn't seem like it's going that direction. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.